Welcome to Maine, we're stretched to the bone. Prices keep rising, the paycheck stays prone. Inflation keeps knocking, won't leave us alone. They're selling the lie, groceries climbing, the gas tank is low. The bill's hitting harder than snow, but silence still blankets the truth. Where does it go? They're selling the lie. Housing is gridlocked from Portland to the county. Workers commute far past what feels soundly. Talk of solution comes yearly, not loudly. They're selling the lie. They're selling the lie. Say every voice counts, but watch who gets lifted. Some stories vanish, some get the spotlight shifted. Depends on what trends and what keeps them gifted. They're selling the lie. I won't believe them, I wanna believe, but truth's always stuck in between. Static and spin, drown the signal again. Nothing is what it seems. I wanna believe you, but every headline turns daylight into redesigned skies. Facts get twisted, context missing. We choke on the simplified alibis. Wanna believe you, but all I see is shadows where the answer should shine. The fact is fiction.
Welcome to the Muddy Waters Podcast, where Mainers tell their stories.
Good morning, Maine. This is Chuck Ellis, and I am the host of the Muddy Waters Podcast, coming to you live from beautiful San Antonio, where the degrees, it's like 80-something degrees here in the morning. It'll eventually reach 90. Hope you all are enjoying the snow there in Maine. Anyway, the Muddy Waters Podcast exists to help the people of Maine better understand what's going on in our state, in part by interviewing people from around the state, telling stories that the mainstream media doesn't want to tell because they have proven themselves to be a propaganda arm of the Democrat Party. And so that's why we're here. We're also here to give a voice to candidates who are running here in Maine. And so today we're fortunate to have with us candidate for Senate District 26, Kenny Cianchette. Kenny the Maverick, I should say, Cianchette.
Good morning, Chuck. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. I'm having a nice little vacation down here, but headed back very soon. But had to make sure, even while I'm down here, it took time to get you in and get you on the podcast. So you could tell us like who you are, where you come from, and why you're running.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I'm glad you could make time for me. As some of you may know, I'm Kenny Cianchette. I actually I ran for this seat 2 years ago, came up a little short against the Democrat machine. So I am a small business owner, founder of Eric's Church up in Windham, which is a country bar. We've won the last 8 Best Bar in the Lakes Region awards. We've won Best Country Bar in the state of Maine the last couple of years on Best of 207. We won couple Chamber of Commerce awards, Business of the Year, all these fun stuff. So that was the reasoning on why I should have ran in the first place. It was I was kind of asked by the state GOP 2 years ago to run. They found that I had been very successful in my community, that obviously I have conservative values, and that I am a fixture. And so I ran 2 years ago as a result of that. Like I said, came up a little short because of some underhanded backdoor politics that I'm pretty angry about. And it's not about losing the race. It's about what happened as a result, which I know we'll get into in a little bit. But I decided it took me a couple of years to make a decision on whether I was going to run again. Everybody was asking me the very next day, "You're going to do it again?" I'm like, I need some time. So I basically took a few months. Some gentlemen from what would become Common Sense for Maine had approached me. They were just in their individual capacity at that time, and they were trying to seek out new Senate candidates to run this election. Business people that I trust, very familiar names across Southern Maine. and they asked me to run. And I told them, listen, I'm willing to do it if I can get everything lined up. And some great things have happened in my life. I have absolutely no need to be doing this right now, but I know that if I don't do this, then our state is going to be in a worse spot. So those gentlemen asked me to do it back about a year ago in February, and I dragged my feet on giving them an answer because I knew what I was getting into this time. I knew what the Democrat machine was going to, what I'm in for with this fight this year, and so I took as much time as I needed, made sure I had the people and the resources available to me to be able to mount a serious campaign, a well thought out campaign, and I decided to jump back in the race. A lot of people like me, which is good. I have a lot of cross appeal across parties, and this time I'm coming in there with a lot more political ammunition, so to speak, with major endorsements and things of that nature. And I'm coming in with the message. I was hopeful and honest last time, but now I'm being much more realist this time, and I'm going to call out bad things and evil when I see it. And I see a lot of bad and evil, and I know I'm the only person in this race, and one of the only few people in the state of Maine that's looking for political office, that I don't care. I am focused on solving these issues, and I am going to get up to Augusta. And if things aren't going our way, I don't care if we're in the majority or minority. I will use my voice. I will use my position. I don't care about re-election. I care about fixing my state. So hopefully they would re-elect me if I do the right things, and I will do the right things. And if they don't, well, I've got a pretty good life here at Eric's Church anyway, so it's not a bad thing. So looking forward to it. Ready. I'm mounting up. The campaign's in full gear right now, and I've got a great campaign manager. I've got an amazing treasurer in Karen Diamond, who's Bill Diamond's daughter, and I have a litany of people that have stepped up this time, which I didn't necessarily have last time, and we are better organized. We are ready for the fight. It's going to be a drop down, drag out fight right until November 3rd. So hopefully everybody will be ready to jump on board and help us out.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing all that, Kenny, and thank you for running. I mean, obviously, as you said, I know I've run twice for House in a very challenging district. And so I know how difficult the job is, right? It's even harder when you're running for Senate because you've got so many more people that you've got to convince. But just running in general is difficult. And you took some attacks from, as you call it, the Democrat machine, where people tried to go after your character and say that you did things that you didn't do and all kinds of nonsense. Just to be able to try and make our state better. But just really appreciative of the fact that even after that, and just the I guess the frustration and humiliation, we'll say, of a close loss, and unfortunately it's not easy to lose. It's really difficult, I think, to get back up again after you get knocked down, we'll say.
Sounds like a Chumbawamba song right there. There you go.
I think so. I just want to thank you for making the decision to run again. Despite that, obviously, one of the things that makes this race so important is that, like, when you look at the demographics, some people give me a hard time for my, we'll call it my strategic analysis of the situation here in the state of Maine. But it appears to me as though, so in order for Republicans to take control of the Senate, we have to pick up 3 seats. And it seems to me that there are 3 seats that, barring a miracle or somebody who works really hard or somebody who's really well known in a district that could swing the vote, it looks to me like there are 3 seats that are in range. And this is one of the 3. So this is, as I see it, one of the 3 that we have to win in order to be able to win the Senate in 2026. So, which is this year. So, we really need, somebody like who, strong candidates to be able to run. And obviously, like, you've got, one of the things you've got going for you is, even before you ran the first time, name recognition. But now, especially now, after having run once, you have more name recognition. My second time I ran, partly due to some things going on in my life, I was unable to do as much work as I'd done the first time, but I still was able to improve the percentage of that I got in votes, because you already had that base of people who already know you and already voted for you, and now you're going for the additional and trying to pick up some more. And so the second run essentially is what I'm getting at, I think, is can be easier to pick up, to gain some ground, especially if you're going up against somebody who has maybe not followed through on their word. So we'll get into that, I'm sure. But yeah, so I just want to thank you for running. And so, all right, so that's a bit about who you are. And kind of why you're running again. But like, okay, so what are the, like typically when people run, they're like three or four, strategic things that they're like, these are the things that I'm focused on. Obviously, if you get up there into Augusta, you have to be focused on everything. But you can't when you're running a campaign, right? You have to pick basically three or four things that, hey, these are the things that I'm going to be specifically trying to work on for the people of District 26. And what are those for you?
Well, rather than continue to beat around the bush, let's just get right into the about the broken promises. We'll get right, because that is priority number one for me. So to kind of give everybody a little bit of background here, obviously I live up here in Windham. Love this town. I've been up here 8 years. Been living here only a couple of years, but I've been living pretty much at my bar for 8 years. So that's so I don't know if you can declare residency at a restaurant. I think I'd get in trouble with the state if I did that. But so everybody knows the name Bill Diamond up here. And even though we're Republicans, and even though we didn't agree with Bill on everything that he necessarily stood for on policy position, both sides of the aisle always had immense respect for Bill Diamond. And, God rest his soul, he passed away last year. But prior to that, me and Bill were friends. When Bill got out of the legislature, I ran into him at Ray Richardson's show, and he was just introducing the concept of walk a mile in their shoes. And as we were leaving the show together, he didn't. I told Bill, I said, listen, based off of what I'm hearing from you, like, you're doing God's work, Bill. Whatever you need for help, like for fundraising or whatever, just let me know, and we'll do something. He's like, okay, I might call you up on that. He called me about 2 months later. He goes, were you serious? I go, Bill, I'm smart enough to know not to lie to you. So we were able to raise Bill quite a bit of money, actually, that summer. We did a fundraiser. This is back in it must have been 2022, I'm guessing. So we raised some money for Bill or maybe it was 23. Yeah, it was 2023. We raised some money that summer for him, which is great. Fast forward, unfortunately, Bill got diagnosed with cancer. He wanted to cancel that next fundraiser in 2024. He called me to cancel it, and I said, Bill, we're not canceling it. He's like, Kenny, yeah. He's like, I don't have the. I'm like, I know you don't have the time. He goes, well, you don't have the time. You're running for state senate. You got a business. I'm like, Bill, we will make time for this. This issue of child abuse in this state needs to end. Like, I need to go at it. I don't care. We've got enough friends. So myself, Danny Shaw, Chris Black, Ray Richardson, Brad Farron, we all stepped up and was able to contact, and we raised more money for the organization while Bill was going through his therapy and treatments for his cancer, which had seemingly subsided, which we were grateful for. But we all worked very hard, raised a lot more money. Now, mind you, this is fall 2024. I was running for state senate at that point, which is Senate District 26, which encompasses Frye Island, Casco, Raymond, Windham, and effectively the north half of Westbrook is the easiest way to say it. And so I was busy. I was running in a blue district against an incumbent, but we made it work. We raised the money. Now, me and Bill had a really good relationship. I went over it before I decided to even run. First call I made was to my parents. Second call I made was to Bill Diamond, and my first question was, "Are you running again?" Because I go, if you're running again, no chance in hell, because I'm not going to try to take on Bill Diamond. He is a legacy around. He was a legacy at that time. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm not looking to run again. I go, well, the Republicans want me to run. I go, would you mind getting a beer with me? So we had a beer. and he talked about it. He was very excited for me at that time. And then, I went over to his house a couple times to go sit on his back porch and talk about how to set up a campaign. And he was giving me a lot of really good advice back then, which I was very grateful for that. It was becoming pretty clear that Bill knew that, because of my commitment to his organization, well before I ever even considered politics, that there was a decent chance that Bill was going to come out and endorse me. And I believe he would have. Tim Nangle, who's in the seat, the guy who I was running against last time, in order to make sure that that didn't happen, because knowing full well, the word of Bill Diamond, particularly in Windham, Raymond, Casco, is as good as gold. Tim and the Democrats told Bill, listen, if you don't have to endorse Tim, but as long as you don't endorse Kenny, Tim will guarantee that he'll sponsor LD 555. LD 555 is legislation. It's currently in the legislature right now to pull the Office of Child and Family Services out of DHS and put it into the governor's office. We lead the nation in mortality rates of child abuse in this state, which is we are on the top of all the wrong lists. This is probably the most egregious, I would say, and the other ones are very bad, but this is probably the most egregious. And the reason we're on top of this list is there is systematic failures at DHHS. We don't have necessarily problems with caseworkers. We have a problem with leadership, we have a problem with management, and we have a problem with ownership by the governor's office on this issue in particular. So the governor has done nothing to address it, to acknowledge it, has done nothing to try to fix it. And there's been a bipartisan effort in the legislature to kind of correct this issue by pulling the department, the office that oversees these travesties, and putting it into the governor's office. It's like rubbing a dog's nose in it, right? That's what this basically is. But it's not about getting people in trouble or anything like that. It's about solving the damn problem. We don't want children to die in this state. So there's a bipartisan effort. Well, the governor, as Ray Richardson has said, eloquently, has been the most powerful governor we've had probably in our entire tenure here in the state of Maine. So if she doesn't want a bill on her desk, she won't allow a bill on her desk. And the Democrat lackeys in the House particularly, but really both sides, House and Senate, follow her orders. And she doesn't want LD 555 on her table, because then it's an acknowledgement of failure. And that's bad for a U.S. Senate race for her, which is reprehensible at minimum, shameful, evil, all that stuff. Tim Nangle promised Bill Diamond, I will co-sponsor this legislation that Craig Hickman, that Joe Baldacci, that multiple Democrat senators are co-sponsoring right now, along with Jeff Timberlake, Brad Farron, and others, to have this be rectified. Immediately after the election last time, Tim Nangle, Bill contacted Tim and said, hey, listen, now that the election's over, the other senators are getting ready to, get this legislation written up and submitted for the next legislative session. Just want to get you in contact with so-and-so to get signed up. At that point, this is less than a week after the election, Tim said, you know what, Bill, on second thought, I really can't sponsor this legislation, which is a lie, because I'm on the committee already. And right now DHHS, they're looking into the problem. So I think they're doing a good job. So he bold-faced lied to Bill to stymie Bill's chance to endorse me. Bill made the right decision, you would think, as far as in his heart of hearts. Bill likes me. We were friends. In his heart of hearts, the bigger, more prevailing issue is child deaths in this state. And what Bill saw was an opportunity of, there's enough pressure on Tim and the Democrats right now. He's making me a promise right now, so that way I can get more bipartisan support to help these kids. So if Tim wins, this will absolutely get to the forefront. But if Kenny wins, it'll get to the forefront because Kenny's Kenny. Me and Bill never made a promise about me sponsoring that legislation. The reason we didn't make a promise isn't because I wasn't willing to. It's because Bill knew that the quality of character of who I am, Bill's known me a long time. The quality of character of me, he didn't have to ask me to do it. He knows I would have done it, and he knows I would have been a pit bull for it. But he saw a no-lose situation. And in the greater good, for the greater good, he made that deal with Tim. So he didn't endorse Tim. He was supporting me quietly. He was making some calls telling people, I am going to be voting for Kenny, but he couldn't do it publicly for that reason. Bill regretted that, obviously, right after the election when he found out from Tim Nangle that he wasn't going to do that. The reason that Tim Nangle didn't do it is very simple. The Democrats know it's a black eye on their control of Augusta, and they don't want to acknowledge it. And it is a horrific thing. This is not taxes. This is not green policies. This is child deaths that we're talking about. This is a morality issue. And so the reason I'm getting back in, even after all that stuff, I was pretty jaded from the last election. I didn't know if I wanted to get into it. It wasn't until this year, and I called Tim out last spring in the Windham Eagle on this, in a letter to the editor. And as soon as I did, Bill called me and said, thank you for doing that. Everything you said was honest and truthful. And Bill and Jane Diamond and everybody else can corroborate this. Bill said it on Ray's show multiple times. Ray's getting the audio for it to confirm all these things. He thanked me for it. It wasn't until this past year. This legislation is doomed to fail because that's what Janet Mills wants it to do. That's the unfortunate truth to it, and that nobody will bring this up in a meaningful way. This past year, January 5th of this year, it's LD 555. There was a public hearing for this. I went up to the public hearing because I wanted to see what this was going to entail. I walk in the room, first person I see is Jane Diamond there. Now, this is a grieving widow that wants to see the life mission of her late husband's work come to fruition. Bill only cared about the kids. He always took priority in the kids. I went, sat beside her, and she thanked me for being there. I just kind of put my hand on her knee, and I mean, she kind of decompressed, which was good for her cathartic experience. And I looked up, and I looked at this panel, this committee of Health and Human Services committee, and everybody was there except for one person, Tim Nangle. This guy not only lied to Bill Diamond about co-sponsoring this legislation, he didn't even have the audacity to show up for the public hearing for it because I think he knew Jane Diamond would be there. And he is such a weasel that he couldn't even look her in the eye. The rage in me when I saw that, and I listened to DHS say that they're working on the problem. I mean, I called these people out. I have no problem calling these people out name by name. Anybody that's stonewalling this issue, I will call you out. I will find you and I will call you out publicly in any capacity that I can. So after that moment, I'm like, all right, we're getting back in the fight. When it's time to take him down, and once we take down Tim Nangle, then I'm taking down the whole apparatus that has been protecting this. We need to get to the bottom of this list, not to the top of this list. There's only one dog in the fight here that's willing to do it. There's great men and women up in the Senate that want to see this change. But I'm a different cat. I'm the Maverick for a reason because I don't really care. I'll speak truth to power, and I'll draw attention if I have to. This is the compelling moral challenge of our state, of our time. And it's being sideswiped. It's being put to the back of the book. We have so many problems in this state. But this one is child deaths. That's ridiculous. And so I'm running. Priority number one is to go up there, whether we're in the majority, minority, whether we have the governorship or whatever. I will fight tooth and nail on this issue. And this is a non-negotiable issue for me. That's why, last week at Common Sense for Maine's gubernatorial debate with Republicans, I had an opportunity to ask one question, and I got a firm commitment, a pledge by each and every single one. They all had to put their hands up to fight this issue. And if our solutions to the problem don't get worked out the first time, they will try again until they fix it. They're businessmen. They understand that if you don't have a solution, you have to figure out a solution. You have to keep working until there is a solution in place. So I've got that commitment from them because I don't care. And I told them I'll be a pain in their ass if they do not do this. I mean, which is probably not very smart for a state Senate candidate to tell a bunch of gubernatorial candidates that I'm going to be a pain in their ass if they don't listen to me. But I don't really care. I mean, I love my state. That's what I care about. I don't care what individuals think of me. I care about that my state is being run properly, and it's currently not. and I care about these kids, and this is non-negotiable. I'll negotiate on other things. The other key components for me is cost of living in this state. Tim Nangle has proposed a brand new local use sales tax to be able to be levied. He was the only sponsor of the bill. That's how bad it is. The Democrats in Augusta are out of control, but only he could sponsor this bill because even they recognize how dumb this is. 2 years ago, he was talking about affordability. This guy has no clue. I have an economics degree. I've been in business. I understand these things. Really, the two biggest drivers that we can fix in this state is our tax policy and our energy policies. But just between those two things, we can drastically create opportunity, not just for young Mainers coming to look to work back in their state, not for just young families or young business people, but for retirees, for every single person in the state. We can solve these problems. Our problem isn't our people. Our problem isn't the federal government. Our problem is Augusta. That's where the problem is. It's Augusta. Yes, federal government, we've had two different presidents with two different, full controls of Congress down there over the last 8 years, between Biden and Trump. Problems come and go. The problems that come out of DC, everybody in this country deals with. However, there are other states that are quite frankly kicking our butt, not because they have better people there, but they have better government there. New Hampshire being one, Florida being another. And so that's where we need to focus our issue is on the cost of living, tax policy in particular. And the two biggest taxes that I think that we need to preferably eradicate would be property tax and income tax in this state. Because I think if we eliminated those, and you can't eliminate property tax, because that is how our municipalities and education is basically funded. What we need to do is rebuild our model so the homestead exemption is vastly increased. I would like to see at least 400,000, and that cost be borne half by the municipality, half by the state, because then all we're doing is levying property taxes on the rest of the properties in town, which are investment properties of some sort, whether they're Airbnbs, whether it's a land thing, whether it's commercial real estate like I have, whether it's second homes from people from Massachusetts or what have you. Like, those are the ones that should be paying the property tax, not hardworking managers that made this state great. That's my opinion on the property taxes. And income tax, we should eliminate it. The only people that don't pay income taxes in this state are the people that can afford to not be here 6 months in a day, the snowbirds that are down in Florida. So while everybody else takes off, and we've got out-of-staters in this state that have bought up all of our inventory of housing, which has caused our housing crisis and skyrocketed our housing prices because they're from Massachusetts, and during COVID, they figured they could work remote, so they started buying places around Sebago Lake or on the coast or wherever the heck they could find them. They get to come up here. They don't pay income tax, but the grocery clerk has to pay income tax. The server has to pay income tax. So all these out-of-staters that are wealthy don't have to pay the income tax, but we do. It doesn't make any sense. We have to rebuild our model. And energy policy, Matt Jacobson did a white paper on this stuff, clearly outlining cent by cent, percent by percent, why our electricity prices are so high. All we have to do is look at that white paper, submit. I'm not going to get Donald Trumpy, but I'm going to, one pretty bill to completely upend the energy policy in this state, so that way we can get our electricity prices down. And hopefully an intelligent governor, God willing, can help us increase our supply and even drop it even further. So, I'm running. My primary reason is to rectify this moral wrong. I'm a Catholic. It's morally wrong. I ran before because we had a lot of problems, but the fact that the evil that was committed, in my opinion, on this, that's my primary reason. My other reasons are, I understand how the economy works. I understand how critical this cost of living is and how we need to have accountability and controls and mechanisms in place at the local and state level. So that way, our biggest problem has been not generating tax revenue. Our biggest problem has been a spending problem, and that we have government that they just say, you know what, our budget jumped 8%, so we're going to whack everybody. Businesses can't operate like that. Homes can't operate like that. You can't sit around dinner table and say, oh yeah, our insurances went up, 10% this year, so we're just going to demand another 10% out of our bosses in wages. That's not how this works. We need an accountability system and program in place. Our state government, our local governments have gotten too bloated with no controls in place. We need to install those mechanisms. I'm a guy that built a business from the ground up that has been, a pretty reputable business in an extremely competitive and challenging industry. Small businesses are a lot harder than running the government. I can assure you that much. And so going up there, I can bring a lot of value to our state.
Yeah, so it's to kind of simplify things down. We've got fixing the DHHS, the foster care program, and then under affordability, there's taxation and energy, right? Like that's what I'm hearing are the main.
Those are the big three. I can go through 500 things, but I don't think we have enough time for that. But we'll stick to those three. Those are the three. Those are the three Achilles heels in our state. We got to fix the HHS because we just have to. But these other things, I want to put our state on a path of perpetual prosperity, and that people that have lived, worked, made the state great, and retired here can stay in their homes because they deserve it. We have a duty to our children and to our elderly. We have a major duty being that generation, regardless of why we're in the situation that we're in. We have a duty, and that will be for the rest of time. We have a duty to children and to our elderly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what's going on in the DHHS and the foster care program, I know through people that I'm connected to, some on the ground, situations of how problematic it is. And remember, as I actually had Bill on the podcast, I didn't know, like some other people did, that he had cancer. So, but I had him on and he we were able to go through some of the major points of Walk a Mile. And the reality is, like, as you said, Maine is like at the bottom of the list or at the top of the list of most deaths per capita of children in foster care. And he would say that it's not simply a Democrat or Republican thing, because there were problems, in previous administrations as well. I think they've been exacerbated under the Mills administration, who not only is the problem existing, but she's refusing to address it in any kind of meaningful way. She has not fired the people at the top. Instead, one of them resigned because they were embarrassed about how bad the state was doing in the area that they were ultimately responsible for. And what does Janet Mills do? Hires the next person in line who's been there for 40 years and is part of the problem. Maybe 30 years, but whatever. And so, it's just not being addressed. And so we definitely need people to get up there and make sure that this issue doesn't go away and that we actually get it fixed. And like, just how silly and naive of Nangle to say, I think they're good people, I think they're working on it. It's like, okay, sure, right, okay, right. We're just supposed to keep. Is that gaslighting? I don't know. Anyway, there's so much of that going on where we're just told to sit down and shut up and trust the Democrats. Like, okay, I'm sorry, I think they've got
an oxymoron. Yep.
40-year history of slowly running the state economically and in other ways, educationally into the ground. Yes, for a brief period of time, we had a Republican governor, and for a brief period of time within that, we had control of the House and the Senate. But outside of that small blip, they've ultimately been in control of our state for the last 40 years. And we've seen in the last, 35 years, we've seen Maine go from one of the top states in education to one of the bottom states in education as another issue. So they're not delivering on their promises, and they just somehow, despite being in control, the problem is the Republicans, the problem is Trump, whatever. And the reality is kind of what you were saying earlier. I just want to highlight is that yes, stuff that happens in DC matters and has an impact here in the state of Maine. But where you at home can have your most impact is actually focusing on local races like this one, school board, city council. We actually have a significantly better opportunity to kind of impact the local laws and the local legislation. And as you've said, there's states like Florida. I'm in one of them, Texas. I was in one earlier this year, Idaho. These are states, and there are others we could name, in New Hampshire being one closest to us, where it's a drastically different world Much more. One of the things that Ray had mentioned when I was out on the show last week was that Maine ranks 43rd in freedom.
That doesn't surprise me.
That's not.
What's New Hampshire ranked? Did he say what New Hampshire ranks?
No,
it's got to be
I'm sure it's top 10. I'm sure it's top 10, right?
Live free or die, baby. That's it's a hell of a motto. I do. Yeah. I think Mainers are. I know Mainers are better than New Hampshire people, but damn, they got a good motto. I like their motto.
Yeah, well, New Hampshire's like our cousin, so we can like Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. I think we're all related. Vermont's
the other cousin. I don't know. They're a different beast, but
they are a different beast. Yeah, but anyway, so we definitely have some things we got to get up there and fix. And one of the things that's different about your race this year versus 2 years ago is that you have a primary opponent, which is different. And I'm just curious about how you think that's going to, change kind of how you approach things, or just how that's going to impact the race. I think sometimes we can look at these things as being a negative, because you'd rather, and I think even from your messaging so far, you have largely still focused on Nangle, which I think is good. But like how that's maybe going to change the way that you go about things this year versus 2 years ago.
So my primary opponent, Peter Violette, I didn't know him until I had heard he was like looking to get in. I still didn't know him at that point. Then he made his announcement, and actually Peter reached out to me, and we've met actually a couple times before I announced to run right here at this bar, my fun little bar. And Peter seems like a really nice guy. He seems like very successful. Obviously older than me, so he's done more things, and he's got a great pedigree. He's a very nice guy. And I think the dynamic this year, it does change it. And me and Peter have a very good, we've shaken hands twice now, and I said, listen, Peter, I can promise you this much: I'm not going to go after you. Obviously he was quick to be, I'm not going to attack you either. I'm like, okay, well, that's good. I go, we should both just be focusing on the election and presenting on why each of us is, in our own words, why we're the better candidate to be the Republican candidate for this fall's general election. So we agreed to that, and we both pledged to support one another after this primary. So I think it's a different dynamic for sure. Peter, like I said, he seems like a really nice guy, and I'm not saying anything negative about him. But the fact is, we both didn't have political experience getting into the Senate race, but I did do it 2 years ago, and so I am way less naive as I was 2 years ago, and I understand what these Democrats are going to do. And you're right, Chuck. You mentioned it earlier that this is a critical seat. First off, this seat is not designed to be red. The Democrats gerrymandered these districts to make this a blue seat, and so it's an uphill battle no matter what. Gary ran, barely lost it the first time. I barely lost last time, and I think I need to get back in that fight. I understand. I learned a lot of lessons in the last go around, and I don't want to tell Peter what I'm doing for my primary stuff. It's not to hurt him, but we're both in a competition, so that's all fair.
Yeah.
But ultimately, at the conclusion of the primary, focus needs to be all on the general election and winning that. There is a very high likelihood that if we flip this seat, that this is the 18th seat in the Senate, and the Senate's made of 35 senators. So this makes this the swing seat effectively, and a swing seat that was not expected to be a swing seat. So I understand the responsibility as the potential next senator from Windham that would carry, as well as the leverage that we would carry and stuff on legislation, regardless of who the governor is and all that stuff. It is critical that we win this seat, because if we do not stop these guys in this election, these Democrats, they're just going to be more emboldened to do more crazy things. And so both Peter and I have a good relationship. And like I said, we will see how it shakes out after the primary. I'm very confident in what my message is and what my team is, and I'm sure Peter feels the same way about his. Um, but I want one more shot at the title because I'm pretty sure I can knock Nangle out. And I just think that Peter is such a nice guy that we've got to call it the evil and the bad stuff when we see it. That's the biggest lesson I learned on the last go around. We have to hold these Democrats, in particular Tim Nangle, accountable for what he has said, what he has done, and what he has not done, and simultaneously understand the Democrats spent $300,000 to try to keep me out of the seat last time, vastly outspending me and people that were supporting me. I have a feeling that they're probably going to spend $500,000 or more. When they spent that money, it was not to promote Tim Nangle as some sort of savior. It was to try to say that I'm a carpetbagger because I wasn't living in Windham for 8 years, even though I was, like I said, living out of my bar effectively for 8 years. I mean, to say that I'm not connected to this community, the next thing they said is they attacked me for taking money from the federal government and firing my employees. You're talking about COVID. Janet Mills fired my employees. I took PPP because I had to take PPP. Otherwise, this business goes under. And so did hundreds of thousands of other small businesses. Yeah. And thank God for U.S. Senator Susan Collins for crafting that legislation. Otherwise, the Maine that's on life support right now would have already been dead because of that. And for Janet Mills and the Democrats to now try to turn around and attack us for it, that is such a load. I don't even want to say the word, but it's such a load. And then the third thing, I was a threat to women. And then the very bottom thing, it was talking about saying that I'm going to outlaw abortion. I'm not running, I have positions. I'm a Catholic. You're not going to hear me say anything about that I like abortion. But effectively, my position is that we should have had the 1992 law that was already passed. That should have just remained in full force and effect, which is basically no questions asked up to 16 weeks. But now what we have now is atrocious. It's disgusting. And Tim Nangle supported it. And all these Democrats just want it's disgusting what they want. I mean, I don't understand why they took these extremes and why they haven't been called out on it. Even people who are pro-choice acknowledge that they went way too far with this. So, those were the three bigger attacks, and they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars attacking me. And I like Peter, and maybe they wouldn't attack him, but I would bet every single thing I own that if whoever's on the ballot, whether me or Peter, they're going to make up lies. They're going to say whatever the heck they got to do. I understand what the fight is that's coming, and I don't care. I'm already started punching in the mouth. Last time I was running on my reputation that I've been a very successful, active contributor to this community. This time I'm still running on that, but I'm also going to call out the evils that I see. And Tim Nangle has taken so many actions that it's disqualifying for me. And somebody said, you're attacking him quite a bit. I go, it's not attacking. I'm calling him out on what he's done. If that's an attack, if that's what you perceive as attack, okay. But I consider attack of saying, making up things. I'm not making up anything. This is all verifiable. Bill's own words are still on audio recording about these things. I'm not attacking Nangle. I'm calling him out. And people need to know about it. He's a bad human being. He's a disgrace to this community, and he's allowing the evils that are happening at DHS to continue because of him being a coward and not willing to stand up to his own party. Listen, I've already called out my own party. If they do not do the right things this time, I will be a pain because we need to fix this state. We don't have time. Paul LePage, when he got in office, had both the House and the Senate, but they couldn't get out of their own damn way. We can't have that situation again here. We have to whip these votes. We have to make sure we fix our tax policy, energy policy, DHS, educate. We have so much work to do. Yet I know a bunch of the people that are the names that are being sprung right now for a bunch of commissioners, people I know and like and friends of mine. And I will have no problem calling them out if they go the wrong way. But I'm absolutely happy to be their biggest ally and advocate in the Senate as necessary. I understand how this game is played. I understand who's going to help me and who's not. I am way better equipped this time. I'm going to get a major endorsement out in a couple weeks here. waiting for some things to finish up in order to get that out, which is going to be, groundbreaking for this entire community, particularly Windham, Westbrook, and Raymond. Like I said, I already have Karen Diamond as my treasurer. It's not like she needed the job. She did it because she believes in me, and I'm grateful for her. And she believes in me because her father believed in me, and they saw how I was acting on there. I've got other well-known Republicans in the area that are going to come out and endorse me. And the biggest asset I have, which I can't coordinate or anything like that, is I was pretty much me and Leo Kenny were the first two candidates that Common Sense for Maine effectively, the people who ultimately made it, jockeyed for us to run again. And so Common Sense for Maine, they're already throwing haymakers right now at the Democrats, which is great. And, with their support, these are all business people that have traditionally been the ones that have been hit up for money by certain PACs. And so they give them the money, and 20 cents of every dollar actually goes to fighting the fight. The other 80 cents goes to whatever. These guys and gals are putting their money where their mouth is. Nobody's taking from what I understand, nobody's taking a cut out of this stuff. And they're ready to throw down. They're targeting a couple key races, and they know the Dems are going to spend $500,000 trying to keep me out. I'm ready for the fight. I can't wait to knock these dudes right in the nose. Like, I am fired up. They're going to lie, cheat, and steal. All I got to do is tell the truth about them. That's all I have to do. That's it. That's such a low bar. It's such a low bar. Just tell the truth. That's it. So we're going to be ready. We've got to go against Peter. We've got to strategize against Peter. Like I said, he's a nice guy. I'm not going to attack him, but I am going to position myself as there's only one candidate that understands the fight that is critical this fall. And if you live in Windham, Raymond, Westbrook, Casco, or Frye Island, there's one guy that understands it, has been through it before. This time, I'm not backing down. I'm not worrying about what podcast or what news program I'm going to talk to. I'm going to speak eloquently. I'm going to speak loud and hard. I mean, if they take one word out of context, I mean, so be it. And I'll fix that if I have to. But the pride and joy right now of the Democrat Party had a Nazi tattoo and said that women are at their own fault for being raped. So, me using one wrong word is probably not nearly as egregious as either of those. I think those are pretty egregious things, in my opinion. So
they are.
This is so easy. All you got to do is be honest and genuine. And I'll tell you what, I'm a football coach. I learned from the loss the last time. I know who I can count on. I have a new, emboldened, stronger strategy, and I've got way more support than I had last time. And I've got more time. You're giving me more time, more support, and experience. I'll take down anybody.
Well, that is Kenny the Maverick Cianchette. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for running. I look forward to seeing what happens. Obviously, as I said when I had Peter on, I'm taking the position partly because of the podcast, partly because of my position as the chair of the Cumberland County Republicans. I don't have to do this. I do have a voice. I could use it, but I think it's better for the movement for me not to endorse any candidates prior to the primary.
Unless they don't have an opponent.
Unless they don't have an opponent, obviously, yeah. I endorse all the Republican candidates who do not have a primary. So ultimately, I'm in that position. But I'm thankful that, as you've kind of said about Peter, I think he's a good guy. He's planning to work really hard, and ultimately by having you guys both focus on Nangle, I think that's best. Obviously, you have to kind of find a way to put yourself on the top, and that's your goal. But I'm hopeful that whoever comes out will give us the best shot that we can have in order to be able to win in 2026, because we have to, as you've kind of said, we got to stop the nonsense that's going on in Augusta, and we have to win this seat in order to do it. So thanks for running, and
and thanks, Chuck. Definitely. I know there's a pretty heated gubernatorial contest on the Republican side, obviously, this year, and we'll see who prevails out of that. But if we had to pick one or the other, whether we have the governorship or we have both houses, we need both houses. That's the critical one. The houses control the legislation that goes through. They hold the governor accountable, and potentially most importantly, they control the constitutional offices. So we can get rid of a Shenna Bellows or whoever, or
How about Aaron Frye?
Frye? Yeah. Oh gosh, there's not a lot of good that comes out of Augusta. I can't think. I mean, there's a couple nice restaurants up there that I like. That's about it. But
are they in Augusta or are they in Holloway?
No, there's a couple in Augusta. Trust me, I will be frequenting on them if we should prevail out of this thing. But no, you're 100% right. The governor race matters, but more important, everybody needs to focus. This is where we have to win. We have to win every winnable seat, and this is a critical winnable seat. And so if people want to, if they want to support Peter, that's fine. If you want to follow my campaign, support my campaign, kennyforsenate.com. I'll say that again in a second, but just, whether you can contribute, which is amazing. Well, I'm a traditionally funded candidate. I'm one of the few that do it because I think that, taxpayers are already overtaxed. And if you're running for political office, it's disgusting to think that you would actually take more taxpayer dollars to run a political campaign. I think that's reprehensible in my opinion. And if everything was perfect the way that it was supposed to be with clean elections, I could get behind it, but it didn't take money out of politics. It just made taxpayers on the hook for it, which is disgusting. So, but if you go to kennyforsenate.com, feel free, we need volunteers. If you want a campaign sign, we have new Kenny for Senate hats. So we got all sorts of stuff going on this time, and just keep an eye on us and watch what we do. And I'm very excited about this. And but we need to win all these seats. But District 26 in the state Senate, that has to be a Republican seat. Pick who you believe is going to be the best fighter for the general election. That is all that I would ask of the voters. So, I'll leave it to them. It's in God's hands, and as long as we've picked the right fighter for the fall, then I'll be content. As we just need to have a Republican in that seat. But if either of us would win, which I hope either of us would win, whether it's me or Peter, well, the difference is I'm the Maverick. I'm the Maverick. So you figure out if you want the Maverick or you want Peter. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a great guy, but I'm the Maverick.
There you go. It's a great title, especially given the movies. But I just wanted to quickly.
I'm taller than Tom Cruise, just so everybody knows. I'm taller than him. I'm 6 foot, so I probably can't fly a plane as good as him. But that's I am taller.
Or do the stunts. Man, that guy does his own stunts. He's crazy. So a couple of people commented on Facebook. This is quite a while ago, but I'll just add Kenny is the best according to Vincent Mayetta. And then Ethan Mung, who we're very fortunate is running for House District 126 against Drew Gatine. We might be able to get him out. We should be able to, actually. That's a very winnable seat. He says Kenny Forseni, and Janet Bowden, also Kenny Forseni. I don't know if those sound like endorsements. They're not official endorsements, but that's kind of how they sound. So you got some fans out there among and Janet is running for, I think she lost the
special election,
the special election, but she's running still again for November. Is it 94 that she's running for? I think it's 94.
Janet, if you're still watching, let us know. But no, I saw her I saw her at an event the other night. Yeah, she's gearing up, and I think we might be able to clip off a couple of those Lewiston seats. And I think she's going to get a lot more help and support to get this thing through. And and as long as the Democrats keep screwing up, then we're going to have a better shot this fall than we definitely did 2 years ago.
We need people to get out to vote. That's the biggest thing. If you're at home, yes, we need you to vote. We need you to make sure your friends vote. We need you to sign up and help our get out the vote efforts, taking advantage of the legal process of ballot harvesting. Go get your notary. That would be very helpful come election time, because it gives us the ability to legally get people ballots and legally get those ballots back in and bank those votes. And what Trump did in 2024, we got to do here in Maine and make sure that we use the system that currently exists. We don't love mail-in ballots, but the reality is, this is the system that currently exists, and the Democrats are using it very effectively. We've got to improve our game. If many people believe that we're the silent majority, there are actually more of us on our side. The main difference is we don't get out to vote as well, and so we've got to do that. So let's let everybody. We need all hands on deck. Get involved. If you have any questions on how to do that, reach out to Kenny, reach out to me, or your local committee, wherever you may be. So thank you all, and thank you, Kenny, for coming on and doing what you're doing. And we'll see you all back here. I believe I'll see you all here again tomorrow with a Tuesday update with John Featherston. So.